We are continuing our series, the top returning Bulldogs based on PFF grades. That's Brent Rollins. I'm Dayne Young. We're from UGAsports.com, and this is a series where we are going through the list of returning Georgia Bulldogs based off of PFF grades from last year. So if they were 70 or above and had a solid sample size of snaps, they qualify for this list. And Brent, a guy with a lot of intrigue heading into this year, is someone that is a top returning Bulldog, but most of what you see on PFF has nothing to do with his Bulldog days, right?
Yep, it's from his time in 2020 at LSU as a true freshman. And, of course, we're talking about the reveal. There we go. Arik Gilbert, who I think the biggest thing when you look at him and the fact that we can even do this video and we can even talk about him as a member of the team and a possible and potential contributing member of the team, that's a blessing in and of itself, because obviously he's had some things personally that he's had to get straight in a lot of different ways. And the fact that we've seen him once now in the spring game on the field, and all signs point to him, being a contributor this fall. That's a big deal for Georgia and especially for the kid.
Reminder, he was a 5-star tight end out of Marietta High School. Really flirted with Georgia straight out of high school and ended up going to LSU. Had a really solid season there, and you couldn't blame him for going there. I mean, this was right after LSU's marvelous 2020 season. 2019 season. And so LSU was top of mind, great program. Didn't really turn out well for him there or for the Tigers since then. And so he found his way back to UGA. Gilbert listed in high school at 6'5", 248, and that's what he's listed at now at Georgia Dogs as well. Interesting part about that is we've heard all over the board that they wanted him a little thinner, maybe to be wide receiver when he first came here. Now with some of the depth at tight end where he's going to be playing most, what I was told is, if anything, they want him bigger.
Yes, and I sort of known this, but the lady, the sideline reporter girl during G Day had talked about him reporting in the spring at right around 310, 308, something like that. He's got himself into shape. And a blessing in disguise, by the way, a big-time blessing in disguise, was both Darnell Washington and Brock Bowers being out for the spring, because this guy got rep after rep after rep, and it sort of implanted him as a definitive tight end in a way. And I just think that's what's best for him. It's where he's going to be in the pros, and it's going to be fun to watch what Todd Monken can do with all that group.
And just a note on the pronunciation of his name, because those things definitely matter. On Georgia Dogs, they have this little thing here where it tells you the pronunciation guide. You can click on it, you can hear it, and it says Arik Gilbert. And I've heard Arik Gilbert. I think probably what's happened is I think it has always been Arik Gilbert, and so many people miss it up. He's just like, fine, whatever, Arik, that's cool, it's close enough.
And whatever you call me, I'll roll with.
I as someone that has a name that gets misconstrued a lot because it's a little unique, I definitely understand. Just move on. Not a big deal. Don't need to make a fuss over it. But if you're trying to impress your friends at the water cooler, Arik Gilbert, I think, is exactly – that's what Georgia Dog says. That's what I've heard him say in an interview somewhere. But I really don't think it matters. Just say 14, right?
Yep. Say stud tight end.
Let's go and look at some of his game tape from LSU. We'll have a couple plays from the G-Day game as well on here. Overall, I mean, you're a guy that's done some play calling and offensive coaching. You just have to have your mouth watering when you see a guy this size be able to catch the football with the radius that he has.
I know quite a few coaches within the realms of 7A football in the state of Georgia, and all of them say this guy was the absolute biggest freak we've ever played against. Like, just no answer. His ability at that size. I mean, we'll see it at the G-Day clip, but he just towers over people, and being able to line up out wide, and he did it a lot in high school too, but line up out wide, go run routes, and make contested catches like he does here. That's just a skill set that's, just God-given ability that this kid has that not many do.
This is Miles Brennan throwing him the ball at LSU. He's returning actually this year. But, when Brennan and Gilbert were on the field together, LSU was not as awful of a team as it ended up being later in the year after some injuries and things happened. Gilbert kind of emerged after a couple of games, but go back and look at LSU tape. He was a star in the SEC almost immediately.
Yeah, and you think about it, he played 8 games, 53 targets. I mean, so they were feeding him the ball. Now, the interesting part about how LSU used him and lined him up out wide is that was like short passes more so. Like his average depth of target on that work was only like 6 yards, 6.5 yards. So it was when they lined him out wide, they wanted him to, it was a lot of slants in breaking routes where he could use his size. But the contested catch ability that season at LSU, 8 of 14 contested catches. You start getting 60% and higher. Brock Bowers was 8 of 13 last year. You start getting that into that realm, you're getting into the top of the nation. You get into the 75% or plus, you're getting into some of the best in the nation in terms of the contested catch ability.
And then they would line him up inside a little bit. He's got it hidden here just for this camera view, but this is just going to be kind of a seam route down the middle.
Yep, straight down the field. And this is to me, the Kyle Pitts-esque route where we knowingly are going to get him on a corner or a safety because of how we've aligned the formation, because he's the single receiver to that side. And this is where LSU used him to stretch the field. Like his 2 touchdowns that season, he had like, I think 340 yards or something like that receiving, 35 catches, but his 2 touchdowns, this one and one other, were when he was lined up as an inline tight end. And that's much like we saw with Brock Bowers a season ago with Georgia. The ability when you get that size, speed, high point ability, like I think you're pausing to show, that's the legit part of his game that can be just beyond next level.
Yeah, I'm pausing to show kind of the height that this football was caught at. He is off the ground. I mean, he's got a higher vertical than even this. But really what I'm showing is technically, it's not the greatest double coverage, but I mean, guy, and that ball gets thrown right in the middle, put it in a spot right here, and it's one of those things that if this is not caught, it's going to be an incompletion. And so in terms of high percentage throws, the likelihood of this being a mistake, it would have to be a horrendous throw from the quarterback.
Yep, and we'll see it here in a little bit, but his first touchdown catch in the G-Day game, very similar play. And what's amazing about this play is just how physical he is. Like Chris Smith is not small. I mean, he's added a lot of, sort of definition and size in his time at Georgia. And then I think it's David Daniel that's the safety. I think he's 6'2", 190, something like that. Gilbert makes them look tiny on this play as he comes in and gets this ball. And just is like, all right, guys, get away from me. I'm going to dunk on you.
And watching back some of G-Day and preparing for this, what you often saw, just because of where he was lined up, would be Gilbert right here. And then this is Nolan Smith. I mean, this is a senior, built, ripped edge rusher. And when you look at it one in front of the other, I mean, Gilbert swallows him.
Yes.
Like he towers over him. And frankly, not that G-Day was this big blocking exhibition for Georgia, but Nolan Smith did not want to see Gilbert in front of him because it was going to be tough to get around him.
Yeah, and it's just, especially if he plays in the 265-ish range. Like if he's that big and that with the ability that he already has, and this is contested catch ability, hands, like it's the possibilities with which you can do things because of him, Bowers, Washington, like all the talent that Georgia has at the skill position is just, it's endless. It's absolutely endless for what Todd Monken wants to do. There's nothing that he can't call or nothing from a formation perspective out of any personnel grouping that he can't do.
Oh, and that's what makes, I think, the possibilities interesting and why we want to show this last clip, because this doesn't heavily feature Gilbert, but it does feature what I'm going to call a billion slants. And so it's just how many ways can we kind of get the defense circling around each other and then find an open receiver out of that. So Gilbert is here kind of in more of an H-back position, really.
And he's the over the ball route on this. This is double mesh. This you hear them talk on TV about the mesh routes all the time. 2 crossers, and he's the over the ball guy. But what it does is it's all the tension and congestion that gives Milton the free reign to go get a wheel out of the backfield for a big play.
But let's just see the attention that is commanded here by Gilbert, just how much kind of the wad of players that ends up about right there in the middle of the field.
Yep. I mean, Ringo actually does a very good job.
Yeah, 3 offensive players, and you had the defensive players that were kind of trailing them there. But the whole, like you said, the design here is let's clear out this space down here for this essentially a wheel route.
Yep, and I think that's the biggest thing with what you saw with Gilbert at G-Day, where it's like, okay, and by the way, and after his performance at G-Day, what do you see on all these 2023 early mock drafts? You see him listed up there because of the top 10 national recruiting, the 5-star sort of pedigree, as well as the ability that he showed at LSU. And we've already said it, it's endless. The possibilities of what they can do with him, Bowers, and then Washington, and especially obviously him and Bowers, because either they're interchangeable in a way. Bowers is obviously a little more of a speed guy than Gilbert. Gilbert has a little more size, but both can be out wide, both can be in line, and obviously he is going to have to block and do some blocking to be consistently on the field. But it's one of those things where, for me, especially this season, with those 3 guys, with Washington, Bowers, and Gilbert, if you are inside the 10 and you don't come away with a touchdown, shame on you for not giving one of those 3 guys a chance to just go up and dunk on somebody.
And that's not even considering the jumbo package that you can do with Jalen Carter or these other guys that once you get kind of within the 2-3 yard line that you've seen them do that before. Because Gilbert can be in that formation. He can be one of the tight ends that either blocks and releases or just blocks the whole time. He's just a great enough athlete for that. I'm glad you mentioned the NFL draft because I think for Gilbert, this is a 7-month job interview at this point. And if he does things the right way, what LSU saw, what Georgia saw, what all the other teams that wanted him saw is you can't teach all the things that he does well. So if he can handle the things that he needs to do well personally, then the sky's the limit. He can be a first-round pick for sure.
100%. 100%. That ability is there. And I think the biggest thing for, like we said at the beginning, it's just phenomenal that the kid is here, that he's playing, that he's there, and he's going to be a potential contributing member of the team. Legit looked like he was having fun playing football at G-Day. So that's the greatest of this story, because there was a time, and I've heard many people who are sort of in the know, and they're like, no, he's never going to play. Not going to play again. So, it's good to see him on the football field, and hopefully we get to see a lot of it this fall.
I had these fancy graphics, and then I got so interested in the film review that I just now threw them on the screen. So if you're trying to recap and you want to go back and see where we've been with this series, this is Arik Gilbert here at number 21 based off PFF grades. Again, his from 2020, but most of the players from 2021. Javon Bullard was previous, as well as Sedrick Van Pran. Where are your favorite Bulldogs on this list? We'll have to see and find out. Brent also is working on a piece over at UGAsports.com for the players that didn't quite make the cut. Either they didn't have enough snaps, or maybe they were 68, 69, kind of right there at the borderline of it, maybe why that's the case. So if you want to see who didn't make the list and kind of begin formulating who you think is going to be at the top, Brock Bowers, then you can play along at home, if you will.
Actually, that's interesting. I don't know that he is the top guy. It's really close. I'm sure he's really close.
I'm saying, having not examined the list fully, if he's not top 5, then I'm going to revolt on this whole series.
Yes, I would 100% agree with that. But I think you might be right about him being at the top of the list.
Whatever unit of measurement, if Brock Bowers is not the top 5 returning at Georgia, then that would be a problem. Hey, we're enjoying doing this series. Thanks for watching along. If you will, please subscribe over at our YouTube page at UGAsports.com. We are the most popular Georgia Bulldogs YouTube site. We're going to keep telling you that because we're super, super proud of it. It's taken a lot of work from us has taken a lot of loyalty from our sponsors, but mainly it's been the loyalty from you, the fans that watch what we do and enjoy just talking the dogs, because that's we get the greatest job in the world. That's because y'all allow that to happen. So we'll continue this series. Coming up next, I was going to reveal who it is, but you going to have to watch to find out. Because I don't know where I'm going to publish these. Anyway, Brent Rollins, I'm Dayne Young. This was our feature on Arik Gilbert, and we'll be back next time. Thanks.